Well, there is news today that the Ministry of Finance is making amendments to VAT treatment for workmanship services when supplying gold and diamonds. It is come as a result. There will be a temporary replacement for the definition of goods in the article of the Cabinet decision on the mechanism of applying VAT, the value-added tax, on gold and diamonds. To get more details about this, we're joined by a friend of the show, Pankaj Jain, the tax advisor from Ask Pankaj Tax Advisors. Thank you very much for joining us again on TSB.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Kej, for inviting us again. Glad to be back on the show.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Always a pleasure, Pankaj, to have you around here. Now, first thing, what is this amendment all about, with regards to the workmanship services when supplying gold and diamonds?
So if I have to summarize it, it's a great relief for the entire gold and jewelry industry.
Mm-hmm.
And let me take you through the background of this development. So VAT was introduced from 1st of January 2018, and on any supply of goods and services, the supplier needs to charge 5% VAT.
Right.
However, in June 2018 itself, the government introduced a scheme wherein if it's a business-to-business supply, that is a supply of gold jewelry between two VAT registered people, the supplier need not charge VAT, and the buyer can account what is called the reverse charge mechanism.
Okay.
Everything was going smoothly from 2018 almost up to June 2022. In June 2022, the government noticed, or I'll rather say the tax authority noticed, that in the gold industry, whenever a supplier supplies a gold jewelry, they not only charge on the invoice for the gold item, but also for their making services or workman services to make the gold jewelry. And in June 2022, it was clarified that, hey, look, what was issued in June 2018 is a reverse charge applicable only on the gold items, not on the services.
Mm-hmm.
And this created a huge kind of a disruption in the entire industry, because all the industry players were required to correct their VAT returns and pay VAT on this making services all the way from June 2018.
So they've had to go back and pay tax they didn't think they had to pay going back nearly 4 years ago.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, bear in mind, there was also a huge risk of paying the penalties, because they were supposed to pay VAT way back in 4 years back.
I think this is the situation, Neil, where Pankaj gets these phones ringing off the hook. Everyone's ringing him up going, how do we not have to pay this? How do we get out?
So that's exactly how we haven't been able to get through Pankaj's phone line. From June onwards.
He's got into hiding.
We've been trying to reach him. Pankaj's phone is, the line is busy.
Is that what happened?
It
yes,
kind of
I will
happened.
take that as a yes. Well, I mean, obviously, this anyone would feel like this. But what were the penalties involved if people didn't pay those fees going back to 2018?
So the penalties could have ranged as high as 50% of the tax involved. So and gold, especially the gold jewelry, is actually a high value, low margin business. So if you're talking about a 5% VAT and a 50%, 2.5% of that as a penalty, believe me, it can wipe out the profit margins of a lot of industry players.
Which is so true. But then, so what has been rectified since then?
Yes. And this is where what I always say, that when it comes to UAE, they understand the business problems and they respond to it very quickly. So what has happened is, when the government and the tax authorities realized, okay, this is something which has happened in ignorance. It did not lead to any tax evasion, because it's a supply between two VAT registered players. The supplier would have charged, the buyer would have taken credit.
Right.
So because there was no tax evasion, there is a proactive correction which has happened. So up to 31st of December 2022, it has been now a new cabinet decision has been passed to say that, okay, the reverse charge mechanism will also apply to these making charges or the making services, but only up to 31st of December 22. Starting 1st of January 23, the suppliers will need to charge VAT on the making charges.
Okay. So now, obviously, I mean, for anyone and everyone who probably didn't go through the entire tax mechanism back then, now realizing and in hindsight saying that, oh, this should have been done, they have the window till December, end of December. But come Jan 1st, there will be an additional 5% that'll go into the making, which eventually means that the end user will find gold jewelry more expensive.
Not exactly. So if you allow me to kind of explain it a bit technically. So we are talking about this 5% between VAT registered buyer and seller.
Right.
So even if now going forward the supplier will charge 5% VAT, the buyer can take the input credit. So it's not an addition to the cost to them.
Okay.
And in any case, whatever was the price to the end customer earlier, on that, the suppliers were charging 5% VAT on the total gold item and the making charges. That process will continue. So on the overall gold pricing, there should not be any impact.
How does this impact the consumer when they're looking to purchase gold? Has this altered how much we're paying for gold at the, at the retail shops?
Should not. It should not impact the retail price. However, now that the industry has a huge relief that they don't have to pay any penalties or the areas of taxation, I think so their cash flow position will certainly improve. So that could be more of an operational benefit that the retail customers could get because the suppliers will have a much better clarity on the tax positions.
Yeah, I mean, now they'll realize that they don't have to pay penalties. Let's do like a little bumper, sale and share our profits with the buyers. When was the last time something like this happened, Pankaj?
I'm all set to buy the gold the moment you announce that.
So poor old Pankaj, he knows too much about the bookkeeping of too many of his clients. He can't reveal what's going on to us as much as he'd like to. Maybe we should do a Pankaj Uncut podcast and he can give us all the answers. Sorry, continue, Pankaj. Yes.
Just to add, so something which was clarified in June 2022 and again in this recent clarification is we are talking about the B2B supplies, the supplier, if they do not charge a separate making charges on the invoice or they do not reflect that separately. In other words, if they only say gold jewelry, X price and X value total depending on the weight of the gold, then they don't have to worry anyway, even for the past or in the future. Because then the supply, as per the clarification, remains of the gold item on which reverse will apply.
Right. So for the ones who had gold and the making charges written separately and 5% on both, they claimed the taxes. Technically, it was the consumer who paid for the benefit of the retailer who didn't really pay those 5% on the making and has in a way pocketed those 5%.
Sorry, because I'll have a different point of view. Because as I said, this reverse charge applied to B2B.
Right.
So to the pricing on the end customer earlier or before the clarification
will not change.
Everything remains. Yeah. And that is what the tax authorities realized when they have come up with this temporary solution.
No, so this is amazing. It's very, very interesting to see that the tax officials are actually keeping an eye on what's happening in the market and making those amendments and making those changes really quick, as compared to waiting it out and probably trying to, wait it out to see if there could be any bigger repercussions. I think kudos to the tax officials here in the country.
Absolutely. But now let me add some spice to the whole discussion.
No, please. We were waiting. We could see you were waiting to tell us. Yes.
We wrote in our weekly column with Khaleej Times something similar in July 2022 on this earlier clarification. This clarification seems to suggest that if a supplier is charging separately for services and showing a separate price for the goods, it will be treated as two separate supplies.
Okay.
And now could create possible hiccups for a lot of other industries. So take, for example, when I'm selling goods and I'm charging for goods, let's say iPhones, and then I charge a separate service for a special packaging or for a gift wrapping. Now, if I'm exporting those iPhones, exports are zero rated. But as per the principle given in the clarification, I might have to charge VAT on these gift wrapping charges for the special packing, because that would be treated as a separate service. So while the clarification is focused on gold and jewelry industry, it could have a huge ramifications on other industries.
So all the other industries are watching out, and our man Pankaj is waiting for the phone to ring as a result. And, if people do want to get in contact with you, what's the best way if they've got any further questions?
So they could contact us through our website, askpankaj.com. It's fairly simple, as we say, for any tax query, ask Pankaj. Of course, it's me and my team, not me alone, who handles the queries. So they can reach out to us through our website, and our contact details, our email ID is info at askpankaj.com.
Wonderful. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. And you were very good. There was only a couple of times your glasses fogged over with some of those heavy questions. But we did enjoy your honesty and being able to just succinctly explain that for us. So Pankaj, thanks again for joining us. We'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you very
me.
much. So there is Pankaj Jain, the tax advisor from Ask Pankaj Tax Advisors. And I think that is really interesting. You know, a lot of other sectors are looking at these changes and are seeing how it may affect their supply chain with the VAT.
Well, to be honest, as an end consumer, I'll be happy as long as it's not affecting my pocket. I don't have to pay a penny more. I'm happy with that. And that's where my questions were directed towards Pankaj, that will I have to pay more as an end consumer? He says no. I trust him. And I say thank you so much.
0586 861 003.